Welcome into Week 5, Boom Bust, brought to you by Fantasy Football Advice Network. I'm joined by Kyle and the Professor, ready to give you your booms and busts for the week. How you doing, fellas?
Doing good. Feeling like a boom.
Yes, you're looking like a boom, Kyle.
Got him.
As in a kiss my boom, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Already getting spicy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and hop into it there. But Professor, since you started off with such a boom there, I'll let you go ahead and kick us off with this one. Who's your first player?
Yeah, I'm going my first boom of the week, and that's Mr. Justin Fields. Just had a conversation with a good friend of mine today about this Dallas Cowboy defense. He's been carrying them. Didn't know if he should drop them in your standard DST fantasy formats, and I said absolutely. They are not the Dallas defense that we've kind of known to appreciate the past couple seasons. Not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago, Lamar Jackson really took it to this defense. He finished the night with 14 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown. Justin Fields is really starting to come into his own in this Pittsburgh offense. He's beginning to, I think, feel more comfortable behind center, and I think this defense is going to have a little bit of difficulty in containing him. They seem to be susceptible to the rushing quarterback. So I'm expecting a big game this week from Justin Fields, both through the air and on the ground.
Who knew going from Chicago to Pittsburgh could bolster your career a little bit, right? Revive it. Who knows?
So,
it's really,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's really crazy kind of what we're learning this season on the importance of where some of these quarterbacks play, going from maybe a dysfunctional system to really an organized team. You look at Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, 1 and 2 at the quarterback position, leading the NFL with touchdown passes. Sam Darnold on the MVP race. 2 years ago, they were both playing for Carolina Panthers. And so you see them go through a series of dysfunctional franchises, land in a real solid place. And, they look like kind of just totally different players now.
No, I totally agree. Now, Tony, you did point out, you mentioned that Cowboys seem susceptible to the running quarterback. I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit. And I hate to break it to you, but Dallas is susceptible to everything at the moment. That Dallas Cowboys defense.
Fair enough. I won't argue.
So that's really the only thing I've got to add to what you said. The rest of it pretty much sums it up. All right, Kyle, let's head over to you. Who's the first player you want to talk about?
First player I'm going to give you my first bust, but I'm going to agree with you and say Dallas has been susceptible to everything so far except for tight ends. So Pat Freiermuth is one of my busts of the week. That's about the only thing Dallas has managed to do well is hold tight ends in check so far. I don't think they've really faced any superstars anyways, but they tend to need them to help with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, which is why the running game does so freaking well against the Dallas Cowboys. So I think we see a lot of that out of Freiermuth this week. Don't think he's going to score a lot of points or hardly any at all, probably.
Well, again, I'm going to give you a little pushback here. Are Lawrence and Micah Parsons, are either of them playing this week?
Oh, good point.
Either way, I mean, they're pretty deep.
Parsons isn't. Dude, I forgot he hurt his ankle, didn't he? Yeah. Either way, we have other pass rushers too, but either way, they're going to run the ball like crazy. Because I think Warren has a shot at coming back this week, doesn't he? Yeah, so they get Warren back. They got Najee and Warren and Fields. They're just going to run on us all day after seeing what Kamara and Lamar Jackson did. Yeah,
they have no use for Freiermuth.
They have no use for Freiermuth whatsoever. Just open up them rushing lanes. They'll probably barely have to throw the ball.
No, I agree with that, unfortunately. All right, Kyle, give me another player real quick.
All right, let's go on a more positive side, but I'll hit you with another tight end. Tucker Kraft at the Rams. He's definitely taken over from Musgrave to be the number 1 tight end there. Loves throwing the ball all over the yard. But the Rams are also very susceptible to the tight end position, giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to the position so far. I really like this matchup for Kraft.
Yeah, Kraft coming over Musgrave. You just didn't know going into the season of who is that going to be? I mean, their tight end position is kind of like their wide receiver position. They have some multiple good ones. Who's the guy going to be? But Kraft seems to be kind of emerging there, and I saw him scooped up in every league I'm a part of. So,
well, as bad as the tight end position's been this year, you're needing guys like that off of waivers. Even digging deep. Otten's doing all right tonight. If you manage to scoop him up, he's going to have some games here and there. Hunter Henry will have some games here and there. But those are the kinds of streaming guys you're looking for this year if you don't have McBride or Bowers.
Yep, pretty much. All right, Professor, back over to you. Got another player for me?
Yeah, I'm going to go over to my bust side, and simply because I've already mentioned his name, I'm going to put him on my bust list for this weekend, and that's Mr. Sam Darnold, quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And look, it has nothing to do with Darnold. It has nothing to do really with the Minnesota Vikings or the talent they have there at the receiver position. This really has everything to do with the New York Jets. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys, this defense is for real. They are the single worst matchup for opposing offenses, at least from the quarterback receiver position. They have not allowed more than 15 fantasy points this season to opposing quarterbacks. And I don't think that we're going to see anything change this weekend in this matchup.
I mean, how incredible is it that Darnold has ended up being the QB1 after he went
right.
In every league I was in, he went undrafted. And here he is sitting at number 1 overall, the only consistent quarterback on the board, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, now he has this true test here. And as hard as it is to sit him this week, I think you kind of got to do it. And that probably hurts because you've been trying to talk yourself in to actually starting him, and he's finally convinced you to start him, and then he gets to the Jets, and you're like, nope, still not going to do it. So
it's funny because even Tony said earlier, oh yeah, he's in the MVP race this year, leading the league in touchdowns, but this week, nope, not even close.
Yeah. All right, Professor, give me one more real quick.
I'm going to give you a guy I think this week we can plug into our starting lineups. I'm expecting a little bit of a breakout from him. Guy we haven't really talked about that much this season, but typically falls within the top 15 rankings at the receiver position. Certainly hasn't delivered on that yet, and that's Mr. Brandon Aiyuk. Kyle astutely has pointed out several times that the way that the league runs now, the first couple of weeks of the season typically now become your preseason games. Of course, for Brandon Aiyuk with the holdout, that's especially true. Yep. But let's not forget, they did pay this guy. I mean, this guy got a monster contract in the offseason. He's got, what, $30 million, $35 million a year or somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah,
and so this, for me, is just a great game to get this guy started. It's an incredible matchup. It's a top 3 matchup for opposing quarterbacks and receivers. So I'm really looking for Purdy and Aiyuk to establish their connection this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that. That holdout in the offseason, I think, put him back behind the curve a little bit. And so it'll be nice, him working his way back in here to start seeing that usage again. I mean, obviously, him and Brock Purdy work well together. We saw it all last season. So it's not like that just is going to go away and stay away. So, I see him working his way back in. Like you said, the matchup this week, perfect time to do it. So
he was just trying to be nice and let his buddy Jawan Jennings have a couple of nice games so that he invited his mom to the game. He wanted to put up some nice points, and
he's like, "Oh, bro, you better get your time before Ricky comes back in here from being shot. So go ahead and get your time to shine real quick before we're all back in here." So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, follow up your talk there with your next player.
Yeah, my other bust is actually a guy on the flip side of that same game, and it's James Conner. I think, I know we saw a lot of points put up by Washington on them last week, and they still continue to run, but it's Washington. They could run against them. I think they're going to fall behind this week and have to throw more because you can't run that easy on San Francisco. The matchup's going to be crazy. The game script's not going to be in their favor. I don't see James Conner thriving this week.
I mean, no, I tend to agree with you. That San Francisco defense, you usually try to avoid playing any players against that San Francisco defense. It's stout. Another thing Conner has going against him is he doesn't catch the ball. They don't really throw him the ball. He gets about 1 target a game, and that's it. And so there's really limited upside there. We have seen on rare occasion a running back come out and be able to run the ball against the Niners good, but that is the exception, not the rule. So he's a risky play this week, but they use him like crazy. But I wish they threw him the ball some. I wish he could receive some to get some easy points, and that just doesn't happen. All right, Kyle, give me your last player of the night.
Yeah, my last boom of the night is Mr. Rhamondre Stevenson playing against Miami this week. It's kind of the battle of the runny poos this week, right? 2 really horrible teams, division rivals. Like, it's going to be a horrible game. But I think Rhamondre has a really nice game, bounces back the last 2 games. Like, he started out the season good the first 2 weeks, plays the Jets, plays San Francisco, looks a little rough, bounces back against Miami, who just gave up really good rushing days to both Tajay and Pollard last week. So I think he really bounces back and get you some pretty good points this week in this what's probably going to be the worst game of the week.
Well, first of all, I'm really sad that I laughed at your crappy joke. Secondly, got him. Secondly, there's been this talk of Rhamondre Stevenson possibly losing his starting gig to Antonio Gibson. That was my reaction exactly, Kyle. I was like, this is talk,
that
right?
Little James Harden meme.
Trying to motivate him, something. I don't see that happening at all. Rhamondre Stevenson has been solid. I know Tony isn't necessarily a believer, but it is a great matchup this week for him. And so I feel like, he could get those kind of points he got those first 2 weeks, like you were talking about, as long as he hangs on to the ball. Yep. All righty, Professor, bring us home.
Well, I was going to give you another bust. I owe you a second bust.
Yes,
however, at the time we were providing our players, the guy I submitted was not out this week. Of course, now he is out this week, and that's Mr. Davante Adams. It was both a combination of the situation there in Vegas, and I'm a Raiders guy, so it's not likely for me to ordinary for me to put a Raider on the bus list. It's really about, and this could kind of be maybe a season thing for you to be thinking about, but do not play receivers lined up against Patrick Surtain. And so it was more about the matchup this week going against that Denver cornerback. What I'd like to do is maybe flip it now and give you a third boom player. Guy I really love this week. Guy I really love this week that I own. And believe it or not, I benched him last week because he's not been producing, been very disappointing at the tight end position. That's Mr. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, with this injury to Rashee Rice, to the moon now with him. We're going to see his volume share really skyrocket. He's really the only guy that have in this offense that can occupy the middle of the field the way he does. And so I'm, big things for Travis Kelce while Rashee Rice is on IR, and who knows how many weeks he's going to miss beyond that.
Now, I typically don't do this, but I want to dig into this with you for just a second because that was my initial thought too is, oh, thank God, as a Kelce owner, he's finally going to get the targets. But we did see last year these teams start double and triple teaming him quite effectively. Do we feel like that could end up being the case now? He doesn't have Rashee Rice and he never got Hollywood Brown stuff to take that attention away from him. Do you feel like they can focus in on him a little bit too much now?
Yeah, so I think one big difference. That's a great question. I wasn't prepared for. But
I wouldn't be prepared for a great question from me either. But here we are.
No, I'm just kidding you.
I was prepared for Davante Adams, so I'm not prepared for any of this.
One big difference this season compared to last season is a player that they took in the 24 draft, and that's Mr. Xavier Worthy. Mm-hmm. And so there really are very few guys in the league, forget about rookies, in the league with the type of speed this kid has. It's funny, every time he makes a catch, the announcers are so quick to point out that he's got the fastest time at the combine in the history of the combine.
Yeah.
So he takes the top off of defense like very few players can. It's going to be very difficult for them to cheat Kelce the way they might have in prior seasons with a talent like Xavier Worthy. He really provides for this offense a lot of the same things that Tyreek Hill provided with that speed, at the wide receiver position. So certainly you might see them attempt a double team, but not like in prior seasons as effectively because of the Xavier Worthy factor.
I totally agree with that. All righty, guys. Appreciate your booms and busts for this week, even if Professor did throw us off just a little bit with a little extra boom in there. So I'll give you that one.
We're going to change the thumbnail for the video now, man.
Awesome, guys. Well, good luck to everyone in week 5. From the way things have looked so far this season, you're going to need it. All righty. Until next time.
See you.
Thanks, guys.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.